Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Mark Isaac Potter Presents. We're visiting today with a guy named Peter Herring. And full disclosure, Peter and I have been friends since the 1870s.
Yes, we
Uh,
used to
we're
watch dinosaurs.
we're long-standing friends. He's a dear friend of mine, one of my best friends. He's a writer, and he's going to tell you more about himself. We're going to do at least one show. And if we do a second show, I'll cue you at the end and let you know to tune in to both shows. Peter, welcome aboard.
Thanks,
How are
Mark.
you today?
Um, I'm okay. Since I'm going to be talking about long COVID, I'll tell you that my brain's a tad wonky, but that'll make it a very
Okay, well,
authentic show about
congratulations.
long COVID. Yeah,
You know, that would be part of the character trait for having long COVID for your brain to be wonky. So you're
yeah,
right on brand.
and being a writer, so it's like double duty.
Yeah, yeah. Between the two, it's
Yeah,
like double wonky.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. So
good to see you, bro.
anyway, yeah, it's good to see you. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself as a person, like maybe where you grew up or what your
Oh God.
educational background is or whatever you want to share with us as a human being.
Okay. Um, I grew up as a writer,
Okay.
so yeah. In sixth grade, I was given an assignment. We were all given an assignment in class to take a fragment of a photograph and write a one-page story,
Okay.
make that up. And I missed that part of the instructions. I often miss part of the instructions. And that started at birth. Um, and I wrote something like a 20-page story.
mm,
The teacher, who I always think is one of the greatest teachers just because he had the presence of mind to do this, to not go, you missed the assignment. I want a 20-page story. They gave
yeah.
it to me with an A and they said, I think we have a writer here.
Oh,
And I
God
just,
bless.
yeah,
What
that's
was
just
that? What was that young man's name, by the way?
that young man's name, the teacher. He had
Yeah.
he had a nickname because he liked to surf, and his name was Woody, and he shouldn't have been because the boards were wood in those days, I think,
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it.
and
Yeah.
um, he had the wrong complexion for that. He was a red-haired guy, and he sunburned easy, and he was like red a lot of the time because he
That's
like.
delightful. That's delightful.
Funny that you would remember that stuff, but like
Yeah.
shout to teach, actually shout out to human beings everywhere. All it is sometimes one line you say in your life to someone
Yeah.
else. You may think it's a toss-off line,
Makes
but
a difference. Yeah. Makes a big difference.
yeah. But I grew up all over the place. It's not that interesting. And I went to Foothill College, as I believe you did, right? Did you go to
Yeah.
Foothill
Yeah.
at all too? And then became a college dropout. I studied. I started as a biology major, and then decided, oh hell, just study what you love, So
Yeah.
although I love biology, but and it figures into the book I'm writing, but became a creative writing major and studied that for about 2 years. And I thought,
Okay.
more, how much more do you need to study writing? And basically dropped out of college, and the rest is history because it's our history. So you know a bunch of that. You were doing We Poetry, which we turned into Two Steps In, so we published that.
Right. Those are
Huge.
literary journals, you guys, for the yeah,
Yeah.
well, I started something called We Poetry, which was literally one page folded in half.
Mhm.
And then Peter came along and made it something more real, and we called it Two Steps In, which I still love that name. And I started a new TV show that I almost called Two Steps In, and then I decided to call it something else. But I love that phrase.
Well, it's a great name, and given the names people are picking for online mags now, it will fit right in,
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah,
them. And it's kind of cool to tell because I know some people doing online mags to say that, hey, we actually did a printed magazine.
yeah.
Okay.
No, no, yeah, we sure did. Yeah, and the last one you guys did, I think I became inactive to say the least. And then you and some other people in the writing group there in Palo Alto kept the magazine going.
Yeah.
And the last edition that you did was an 82-page masterpiece that was like your opus lopus or something. It was just marvelous.
Yeah, that was fun to do. Is you
Yeah,
made equal the state of California, because this is down in Palo Alto for our, listeners. And Palo
yeah,
Alto was a really, first of all, you could afford to live in Palo Alto in those days. This is the mid
yeah. Palo Alto was not,
and and
yeah, it was not what it is now at that time. That was back in the 70s. So that's what, 50 years ago.
yeah, and you had bought an A&M multigraph printing press, and neither of us knew how to
750.
run it. And by the luck of the draw, California was doing a program where they taught people how to print. And I'm a few years younger than you, and you were aged out on that program at something like 22 or so.
Right, right,
And I
right,
was
right.
young, so I took it, so I learned to print. So that's what we said. We printed the magazine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that was a thriving scene down there. I mean, there were tons of
That was
writers.
that was a very beautiful scene. Yeah, we had a lot of people. Abby Newbar and
Yeah,
a bunch of other people that.
yeah, yeah. Abby's hard to talk about. Abby
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
was,
yeah.
was murdered.
So
But
tell it. You're a writer, so tell us a little bit about your like first dance with writing. When did you were you like 12 or 15 or 5 or when
well,
did
it's
you
really like
start
I said,
dancing with writing?
and I wrote a long poem in fourth grade that was supposed to be a Valentine's Day poem, and mine was 4 pages long or something, and it was, and so
Okay.
to go up and read it. But I would say I started writing poetry slowly, seriously, you can call it that, at 11, and then
Okay.
I never really stopped, and then somewhere probably in college I started to write prose because it just gives you that much more breadth than
Yeah,
poetry, and
right.
started adding that in. And long story short, in a nutshell, obviously, I'm a tad older than that now. I'm 69. Um, sort of budding literary career, I guess, for my 20s. But I'd also had, I had two kids and a stepson by the
Yeah.
time by the time I was 28.
Okay.
And then I have four sons total. And so middle part of my life's really been about making money and raising kids, and very expensive to have four sons. And
Yeah.
very glad I have four sons, uh,
Yeah.
but it took a large part of my life. So I continued writing during that part. I actually wrote a couple novels, which I don't care very much for now because I tried to write them at, 10 o'clock at night while I was nodding off, and didn't really send anything out. And then came to this portion of my life where, um, well, as I have a small farm up in Washington on the Olympic Peninsula, and
Right.
the idea was to restart my writing career. And then I got COVID,
Yeah.
and, so then I got I got over COVID. It was fairly severe, but not go to the hospital severe, and I thought it was fine. And about a month later, I noticed that I wasn't fine. And no one knew what was going on at that time. There was
Okay.
no
Okay.
new word long COVID or post-acute sequelae of COVID, or
Right.
we didn't know. And
Okay.
but I just became kind of non-functional. I
What
was
year would you say that was?
Well, I was 65, so it was 2000. Well, actually, I can tell you exactly when that was. So it was March 14th of 2020 when I got COVID. In
So
about
that's been 4 years already. You've had this thing that you now think is long COVID.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
it's pretty indisputably long COVID, but according to even to doctors that I go to now. But anyway,
Okay.
that kind of interrupted what was going to be getting back into writing. I had several novels that I wanted to get onto,
Right.
and I couldn't write. Um, I could amazingly because I have to augment my income by doing some marketing writing and stuff, which I've done for 30 years. I ran a small ad agency in the 90s and early
Okay.
2000s.
Okay.
I could do that, but that stuff's almost like rote. I can almost write that stuff in my sleep now.
Yeah, well, after 30 years of doing it a lot, I suppose it is.
It's a little bit formulaic, but talk about Hollywood
Yes.
stuff being formulaic, and a lot of it is. But boy, you should try, marketing copy. You were saying a lot of the same thing over there.
Yeah.
I love the way your cup disappears into the ether when you put it back into the blurred background. Reach back
Say
and
that again. I missed that sentence. What'd you
reach
say?
back and pull your cup up. I said, I love the way your cup disappears into the ether as you there.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. That's yeah. It's I learned that from Steven Spielberg. So
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the tricks.
last time we went to coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. You pick up those tips from the masters. And Stephen learned a little about writing from you, I think. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, he
yeah.
shaves his head now like me. So,
Yeah. Anyway, that's
so
that's the story of the long story of my life getting to where when I could begin to write again, I actually had a series of novels that I want to write. I want to write. Based on a long short story I'd written called The Man Who Loves Snow, which are speculative, or you could call them science fiction, but I like speculative.
okay, but yeah, the phrase speculative is becoming more common.
Yeah, I think because it's more like literature that has, I'm a literary writer, and it's more
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
literature that has some scientific aspects to it, or futuristic aspects to it, but
Right, right.
not so much science fiction like Heinlein and all the greats for writing way back then that was really based around
Yeah.
science. And but I started writing, I came across flash fiction and I started writing really short flash fictions and I went, oh, I can write this.
Okay.
Then I started writing a series of stories that were about people who either had COVID, were married, or and friends or family to someone who had COVID, some people who had long COVID, some people who were doctors, nurses, patients.
But
And
the Liat motif is people who have long COVID, right?
well, around long COVID, because either people who have it or they're caretakers or they're partners in life who
Okay,
have to
okay, okay.
live with it. And
Right.
okay, this is cool. I can write like this. They were all under 1,000 words. And
Okay.
the way I couldn't, my brain would not do a plot that, like a novel is really hard to write. A couple hundred.
Yeah, yeah, because you've got a timeline and
Yeah.
things have to happen, and the things before that have to presuppose and foreshadow what's going to happen and all that.
Yeah. And you have to, you either have to get it straight or you have to be Google. Gogol,
Yeah,
the Russian writer who could never get his timeline straight, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
kind of appreciates. I mean, what can you say about a guy who writes a story about a nose that takes off to live on its own? But you know,
Ah,
so
boy.
so
Yeah.
anyway,
Mm,
I realized that I could write something, and that it was a good idea to write something about this disease. And at the time, this is probably 2022 or something like that. I can't, maybe even 2023, because I seriously cannot write well. I think I wrote some poetry um, for a fairly long time. I
so
mean, I
this
couldn't,
thing really severely affected every part of your life, even your creative energy.
yeah, yeah. It's just, it comes with, COVID comes with, I don't want to spend a long time talking about it, but it comes with a whole panoply of symptoms, not all of which everybody who has long COVID has, but
Okay.
but most people, including me, end up having half a dozen to a dozen different symptoms.
All of the symptoms are individuated, or are there some that are common?
Um, there's some common ones: the fatigue, the exhaustion, what they call PEM, post-exertional malaise. I love these. I
Okay.
love these. I love these health
Post
terms.
exertion mayonnaise, is that what you said?
Yes, yeah. I love these medical terms where they try
I
to
got
say,
to throw some humor in here. So,
yeah, like I feel awful. Oh, let's call that. post
Malaise.
malaise, it just, I feel like shit.
Dear
Well,
God.
say that in a medical setting.
Oh, Lord
So,
Jesus. What a
anyway,
world.
that one seems to be common to all people. It's just,
Yeah.
I guess, for viewers of this really briefly, COVID first was typified or discussed as a respiratory disease, and
Okay.
it's not. That just happens to be one of the areas it can affect is people's lungs on it.
Okay.
It's a vascular disease. It's our vascular system. It's our blood vessels, right? And it likes to. This is as scientific as I'll get, Mark. I've promised.
No, no, please. It's all good, man. I think our audience is mature enough and intelligent enough to understand what you're going to say, and it's good information. So go for it.
Well, starting college as a bio major, and I was one of those guys who took all the bio and chemistry and physiology classes I could take in high school too. Helped.
Okay.
I didn't know it was going to be helpful later. So what a lot of long COVIDers find is we have to do our own research. The doctors won't do it. Mostly the doctors won't even listen to it when you bring it. Everybody seems to have their own ideas and little theories about what it is without, frankly, having read much research. But the basic gist of the disease is that it loves this receptor called an ACE2 receptor. There's actually another
Hmm.
receptor now it loves. That is in these type of cells called endothelial cells, which line our blood vessels. So
Okay.
it's in our blood vessels. From there,
Huh.
it can get anywhere it wants. And I think that including the brain, and there's now a great researcher down in UC Davis, Danielle Beckman, who's taking confocal microscope images of COVID in the brain. And for a long time, this was just speculation. No, it can't get in the brain because the brain, blood barrier. But once it gets in blood cells, those blood cells can burst. It can get, once not in blood cells, in the lining of the blood vessels, it can get to any organ in the
Okay.
body. And I think that's why the multiplicity of symptoms. One person has neurological symptoms, although most people, I think, are having neurological symptoms.
Okay. Okay.
Another person might have heart symptoms. Another person may have kidney problems. Another person might have gut problems, and so on and so forth, like that. And it's just
Right.
so it affects people very differently. There are a lot of people with long COVID. The estimates in the United States run from 19 to 23 million adults, which is about 7%, I think, of the population.
And it's so silent. I mean, there's so little of anything, publicity or research or anything going on that it's just shocking. I don't even know what other disease I could compare it with. It was so in the closet for so long.
Yeah, it's interesting in a way, even not as much as HIV, although for the longest time, HIV didn't get the attention it
Publicity and research it deserved.
either. And a lot of that I think was, it was purely because it was LGBTQ people,
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I figured I'd shut up and let you say it. So since
Yeah,
apparently you're the guest and I'm the host, I don't know how that works, but
and I think that's rather obvious. And in this case, I think probably what happened is, the first year of the pandemic was very, very rough on the economy. And basically,
yeah,
we have to get the economy back. We can't be, we're talking about a disease. I mean, we have right now, we've hit a point where this is published, you can look it up. About a million,
okay.
about a million people a day in the US are getting COVID right now. Now,
Oh, okay, okay. You're right. You mean regular COVID, like
yeah, yeah,
COVID one or whatever we want to call it. Okay.
yeah. But some percentage of those are going to go on to having long COVID. And
Yeah. We don't
what
know what percentage yet.
no, they really don't. But the worrying
You say
thing
it's
about
like seven
COVID, that,
percent, or would you
well,
guesstimate the percentage?
I have heard all kinds of figures, of say maybe around 10%. I've heard way higher figures. I've
Okay.
heard research, even people now who have COVID and say, hey, it's just like cold or it's just like a flu. may get cumulative damage, particularly if they've got it one, two, three times, which people are doing sometimes because
I'm one of those people. I've had it 3 times now.
yeah, I know.
So,
And
yeah. Mm,
and even though it may seem very mild and so forth, and we long COVIDers and our allies, the MECFS people, the chronic fatigue or the myalgic encephalomyelitis, are like screaming, going, it's not mild. It could be, you may feel like you had a cold, you may have virus in your brain or in your heart or something like that.
right.
Um, anyway, and this is not like a conspiracy theory. I don't think a bunch of people got together in a back room and said, we got to shut down this. But the economy needed to restart. And I think, COVID got
Got in
downplayed.
the way, got the publicity would have gotten in the way of restarting the economy from somebody's point of view.
Yeah. And
Somebody thought that was how it is, so they wired it up that you just suppress the COVID/long COVID thing and go for making the economy better.
it's, yeah, I mean, it's partly political too. And I actually don't blame either party for this, but it was like the party that got up, whether it was Democrats or Republicans and said, we need to go back to lockdown. That party was going to get voted out.
Okay.
That's
Wow.
just politics in the United States. Nobody wanted to go back to a lockdown. And then, COVID brought up all this other. I don't want to shock you, Mark, but we have we have divides in this country. You might have heard of.
Really?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. You can't believe it between, people's of different colors, people
Biting my
of
tongue over here.
I mean, I don't want to be controversial on this
Yeah.
show.
By the way, I don't want to shock you, but we have very little time left.
Okay.
Shows go by extremely fast. What would you like to say to anyone in the audience, either that has long COVID, how to keep going in the face of it, or do you want to inspire someone as a writer, or is there anything you'd like to say that's important that I haven't given you a chance to say as of yet, because we're
Okay.
going to close out here in just a few minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Well, I'm certainly not going to give people advice on what to do with long COVID. I post a lot on social about that, as do other people who do it.
And where do you
Um,
post? Where do you post?
on Twitter and Facebook mainly right
And
now.
what's your last name? We don't have it on. Well, we will have it on the screen once
Oh,
we publish.
my last name is Herring, but I'll send you my handle, I think, right on or whatever they call it.
Okay. All right. Good.
Um, Briefly, because I think you and I talked about the possibility of another show, and maybe I could read
Yeah.
some of it on there. I'm actually started writing a nonfiction article on chronic disease in this country, not just
Okay.
COVID and
Okay.
how it gets treated. But before I write that, I had switched over from those novels. I said I was going to write to a novel I'm writing called Love COVID, which is what those stories I talked about earlier are becoming. They're no
Okay.
longer to be 1,000 word stories. They're longer, but they're still linked stories of characters who have
Okay. So
COVID. And the reason I'm doing that is I think, a factual piece, an expository piece that I want to write is nice, but fiction has this way of making the invisible visible, of pulling out, the interior of people's lives that we don't see and doing
all
it.
right.
And I think it really evokes our empathies and so forth. So I think it's important to write that novel. So that's what I'm putting most of my energy into right now when I'm not.
How far along would you say you are with that novel? By the way.
Well, I just applied for a grant to help me finish it. So I know. So I have 41 pages right now, which I forget how many words that is.
Well,
And
but a novel is anywhere from 100 to 150,
I
200 pages.
have I have about 12,000. Well, I'm into another story. I have about 13,000 words written right now on it.
Okay.
And it's about
Last time I checked, a novel's like 70 to 100,000 words.
yeah. And this will be somewhere.
You're well on your way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got the
Very
character
good.
mapped out.
All right.
I think that's what I would like to leave people with. I've I would like to get this out there, and I think people with long COVID and stuff may be interested in reading this, but I'm hoping some people, without long COVID will read it
Okay,
too.
now how can they contact you if they want to contact you about any of this? What will you want them to call you? You want them to email you?
I would rather emails than calls because I can't.
Okay, so we're gonna put them. Then we'll probably include your email on the screen so that we have it available for them.
Yeah, I've got a separate email that I'll set up. I can get that one to you on
Okay. All
Proton,
right.
which is a great email system, very
All
secure.
right. Well, I've kind of, even though I've been measuring the time, I didn't push the button early enough. So I want to keep under 30 minutes so that we can put this on places like TikTok. They don't allow anything over 30 minutes.
All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the show. And this has been Mark Isaac Potter Presents with our guest, Peter Herring, who's a writer and who's somebody who has long COVID. And we love him dearly. And you guys take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Oh, don't do that.